From hybrid wheat in the lab to the farm, we have heard from Pung. Now let's venture into the emerging hybrid food environment. So we're welcoming to the stage Dr Alice Gibson. Alice is a clinically trained dietitian and researcher at the Leader Centre for Health Policy, Economics and Data and at the Charles Perkins Centre. So I'm already wanting to ask lots of questions, but I'll stop myself and instead just welcome Alice for her presentation. Then we'll do some questions, ask you guys if you have questions, and we'll take it from there. Thanks very much. Welcome, Alice.
Okay, so, hi everyone. In my brief for tonight, I was told to make this talk a little bit fun. So naturally, as a scientist, I thought we could start with a little experiment. What I'm going to ask you to do is to raise your hand, and I'd like you to put your hand down if you've done any of the following. So, hand up. Okay. Ordered online through Uber Eats. We've lost most of you already. How about Hungry Panda, DoorDash, Menulog? Has anyone ordered a meal kit subscription through HelloFresh or Marley Spoon? Some hands are going back up. No, it's got to stay down. Has anyone ever ordered their groceries online? Has anyone still got their hand standing? Congratulations, but I'm sorry I don't have any prizes. But that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. How deeply the digital world has woven itself into the way we purchase food. And I can imagine if we just went back 5 years ago, pre-COVID, there might be a lot more of you with your hands still raised. So we're here tonight to talk about food systems. And when we talk about food systems, that involves everything in producing our food, distributing, and selling it. Now, at the other end of that, far away from the farm fields, is what we call the food environment. That's the shops down the road, the local takeaway shops, what's on the supermarket shelves, how much that costs, and even how it's advertised to us. And together, these things impact what we end up eating far more than any of us realise. But the food environment has expanded beyond our physical world. We now live in what we call a hybrid food environment, a term coined by Dr. Gia in our team. And this includes the digital food environment, the online spaces where we browse, buy, and think about food. It includes meal delivery apps like Uber Eats, meal kit subscription services like HelloFresh, and online grocery services that allow you to do your weekly food shopping from your couch or when you're coming home from work on the train, alongside the endless influencer content and viral TikTok videos shaping what is trending each week. So if the traditional food environment is what's down the road, the digital food environment is what's on your phone. And that's where our research fits in, exploring how this digital layer of the food world is shaping our food habits and what that means for our health and our communities. So to bring this to life and show you what I mean, my camera roll is full of photos of my children and notifications like these. Screenshots. Have you got a sweet tooth? 50% off lollies should do the trick. Stock up on your favourites now before it's too late. Oh, do you fancy a sweet treat? Guzman and Gomez's Nacho Sundae has your name all over it. Make it yours now. And then there's the subtle reminders that the algorithm is always watching. Stephanie, did you forget your small fries? We caught you looking. Open the app now to complete your order. And what's especially worrying is these ads aren't just targeting adults, they're targeting our kids. A recent Australian study found that children and teenagers are being heavily exposed to junk food advertising on social media. And this was associated with a greater preference for and consumption of junk food. However, while I'm yet to receive a notification to buy some more vegetables, the online world does have a few surprisingly healthy trends. You may remember some of these news articles from earlier this year, the cucumber salad craze or the cottage cheese shortages at the supermarket. And this is a good reminder that the same types of digital forces that are promoting junk foods can have surprisingly good impact on our food habits, but it really just depends on which algorithm wins the day. So you might be wondering, how on earth would we study something like this? And traditionally, the food environment research looked a lot different. So traditionally, food researchers would draw a circle around a person's house, marking out 1 mile or 1 kilometre, and then we would count the types and amounts of foods that people had in their local food environment. And this is where terms like food deserts and food swamps came from. So areas where people lived and they had little access to fresh produce or healthy food, but plenty of access to junk food. But in 2025, that circle does not make much sense anymore. And that's why our team at the University of Sydney has been pioneering new ways to capture and study this hybrid food environment. As part of Dr CCG's PhD, we built this DigiFood dashboard. And this is an online interactive map that maps the whole food environment across New South Wales. So this includes both outlets available online as well as in the physical food environment. And this was no small task. We identified about 40,000 food outlets across Sydney and 16,000 available online. Now, I know it's not a competition, but I thought Inner West Sydney had good food choice. However, the Parramatta postcode of 2150 had the greatest number of food outlets in the hybrid food environment. And a really important point to note is that 70% of these were independently owned. And this is a point I'm going to come back to shortly. Okay, so as well as capturing what's in the food environment, we want to understand what people are actually ordering and why. So another study led by Dr. CCG and her PhD, we sent smartphone prompts to people throughout the day to capture their food delivery orders in real time. And what this showed us was that most orders were for pizza, fried chicken, and burgers. The majority of people were eating alone. Convenience was cited as the most common reason for ordering, and 1 in 3 people used a promotional code. Those little digital nudges that make it even easier to order now. And this brings me to the next part of my story. Because while convenience is wonderful, it does come with some hidden costs. We're often made to feel like by using these services, we're supporting local businesses. But I just don't think people realise how much money actually stays local. When you order through a third-party platform like Uber Eats, 30% of what you pay goes straight to Uber. That's much less money to the local business owner down the road, and instead straight to a multi-billion-dollar international conglomerate. And with such tight profit margins in hospitality, many of these local business owners cannot afford to be on these services. Yet they can't afford not to be. They risk losing customers if they aren't, but they lose income with every single order when they are. And it's not just about the economy of food, it's about the social fabric surrounding it. Eating and sharing meals has always been one of the ways that we connect with others. Yet these apps may be contributing to a world where we're eating together less often. We also are in the middle of a loneliness epidemic. So while ordering online, so over time, that can shift more than our eating habits and our waistlines. It changes the way money, connection, and culture can flow through a neighbourhood. And then there's the algorithmic side of it all, the part we don't see. Every click is feeding back into a system that decides what we will be shown next, often prioritising the big fast food companies and ultra-processed foods that have the marketing budgets to keep their foods and discounts right at the top of our feed. But of course, it's not all bad news. These apps are here to stay, and there can be a lot of benefits. My grandmother, well, my 90-year-old tech-savvy grandmother, when she was no longer able to drive or walk around a supermarket, she started ordering her groceries on her phone. This gave her independence and the ability to stay in her home longer. As a busy mum, I'll admit that food apps offering groceries on demand have saved me more than once. There's nothing quite like putting my kids to bed and realising we were out of fresh milk or fruit for lunch boxes the next morning. A few taps on my phone and they magically appear on my doorstep before bed. Or last year when I went to a conference in London and came down with influenza A. I could barely move, but I was still able to order coffee, Panadol, Nurofen, and what little food I was able to stomach straight to my hotel dorm room. And I know I'll go over time, but I just have one last story for you. So if you move to Australia and you bring your dog, that dog has to go into quarantine for 10 days. And I heard this story about a dog, while in quarantine, refused to eat. And so the carers called the owners and said, "Do you have any suggestions on how we can get your dog to eat?" And the owner said, "Do you have any barbecue chicken?" And they laughed and said, "No, sorry, we don't serve barbecue chicken here. But you could Uber Eats one." And so they did. And I don't know the rest of the details, but I can just picture this delivery driver rocking up to this government quarantine facility, handing over what they think is someone's lunch, only for it to be carefully pulled apart and served to a dog on a hunger strike. Now, these stories remind us that the digital food environment isn't inherently bad. It's just responding to our growing demand for convenience. The challenge and the opportunity is how we use it in ways that improve our health and our communities. So let me tell you about a social enterprise business that I loved so much I accidentally became a shareholder. It's called Box Divvy, and it's a community-based fruit and veggie co-op that uses an online platform to connect people back with producers. And the way it works is simple. You join a hub. It's run by someone in your local community. And then the produce gets delivered to their house, and they divvy it up based on what everyone in the hub ordered earlier that week. And beyond the fresh produce, it's the social connection that makes it so special. You get to know the person running your hub. You bump into your neighbours when you pick up your produce. And the bit I love the most is that when you're ordering, you find out who's actually growing your food and how much Box Divvy paid them for it. And this transparency is in stark contrast to ordering from Coles or Woolworths. And the best part is it's about 30% cheaper. So I loved what they were doing so much, so when a crowdfunding campaign popped into my inbox last year, I invested $5,000. So that technically makes me a shareholder. I do have to declare that as a conflict of interest. But there is research to demonstrate its benefits. A Western Sydney University study published early this year that I was not involved in found 50% reductions in food insecurity, along with significant increases in fruit and vegetable consumption among people joining Box Divvy. And the best part, the greatest increases were among young adults, single-parent households, and those on lower incomes. So models like Box Divvy, and I'm sure there's plenty of other ones out there, shows us how digital tools that connect us back to each other and to where our food comes from and what that can do. And what's great is that communities are starting to take back and take control over their local food environments. And a great example of this happened in Redfern earlier this year, where the local council successfully blocked the opening of a 24-hour McDonald's in response to hundreds of community submissions. So the local Aboriginal medical service objected on health grounds, but residents raised concerns of delivery drivers and the impacts that would have on the local neighbourhood. So this is an example of people standing up and saying, this is not what we want in our neighbourhood. Okay, so to bring this all together, if Peng's work is about how we grow food for the future, my work is around how we access and experience it. And both are about resilience, because while science can build stronger, more resilient crops, we also need stronger, more connected communities, ones that can thrive in the fast-paced digital world we now live in. Thanks.